Captain Amara Steele stood alone at the bridge's viewpane of the SS Ascendant, her gaze fixed on the edge of the dark void where something unimaginable stirred. Far off, the Qatar fleet, massive, implacable, and chillingly silent, moved like a tidal wave, closing the gap between humanity's fragile defenses and the Earth she had sworn to protect. In her hand, a hollow report displayed critical news in glowing red letters. The Earth defense grid was on its last legs, with only hours left before it would fall. Her orders had been clear. The Ascendant and her crew were to intercept and delay the Qatar, giving humanity precious time to regroup. She knew the task was a death sentence. Yet Amara accepted it, not because she believed they could win, but because she was determined to fight to buy humanity's survival, even at the cost of her own life. Beside her, the command panel flickered, and Lieutenant Jax's voice broke through the silence. "Captain, they're in range. Orders?" Amara turned to him, studying the faces of her loyal crew. Each bore signs of exhaustion and fear, but their resolve was clear. With a final steely breath, she issued her command. "Ready all batteries. Prepare for battle." The Kitar weren't simply an enemy. They were an ancient terror, a species that had lingered in the darkest whispers of human history. Their ships, each the size of a small moon, absorbed starlight, appearing as voids within the void. For centuries, they had been nothing more than ghost stories, until they started leaving ghost planets in their wake. The legends of the Tar had always lurked at the fringes of the galaxy, drifting between whispers of an ancient evil and the stuff of children's nightmares. Tales spoke of the Kitar sweeping through entire star systems, draining every world dry of life before moving on in silence. They left no survivors and no bodies, only vast, empty cities and blackened earth. For centuries, they had been little more than ghost stories for most, but for Captain Amara Steele, they were cold reality. Amara had spent countless hours poring over classified military reports, her heart heavy with dread each time she read about the colonies left barren. As she looked at her battle-worn crew, she knew they'd been pulled from victory after victory, each fight more grueling than the last, and each encounter with the Qatar leaving scars. But today, on the edge of Seoul, there would be no backup, no reinforcements. Today, they were the last line of defense. In the low hum of the briefing room, Amara stood before her senior officers, holding a projector that displayed the Singularity device, a weapon both revered and feared. The device looked unimposing, a small, smooth sphere, faintly pulsing with an inner light, giving it an almost serene appearance. Few even knew of its existence, and even fewer understood its purpose. Lieutenant Jax, her second-in-command, broke the silence. "The Singularity device," he murmured, eyes narrowed as he stared at the projection. "They actually think it can save us?" Amara nodded, her expression grave. "It's our last shot. Our intelligence suggests that the Qatar's ships rely on their gravity fields to fuel their engines and shield technology. The device will disrupt those fields, but there's a catch," she said, her voice catching. "It can only be activated at close range, and once it's activated, there's no turning back." Jax's face tightened. "So, we're looking at a one-way trip?" Amara met his gaze steadily. "Yes, I'll be staying aboard to make sure it goes off." The officers around her exchanged tense glances. Some had served with Amara for years, their loyalty unwavering. Others were new, green recruits looking to prove themselves. Each had a story, a family they hoped to see again. "We all knew the risks when we joined the fleet," Amara said, her voice softening. "But I won't order anyone to stay behind. This is my responsibility. Your responsibility is to make it home and tell our story." Jax clenched his jaw, nodding reluctantly. The others looked down, processing what lay ahead. They'd be evacuating, leaving their captain behind to face certain death. "All right, Captain," Jax said finally, his voice rough. "We'll see this through." With that, they returned to their stations, bracing themselves for the coming storm. The SS Ascendant approached the Qatar fleet at the edge of the Sol system. Around the bridge, every monitor displayed data on enemy movements, shield integrity, and power levels. The Qatar ships loomed in the distance, barely visible but registering on their scanners as massive dark shapes blotting out the stars. "Targets confirmed," Lieutenant Jax reported, his voice steady despite the tension hanging in the air. "Bring us in," Amara ordered, voice firm as iron. She gripped the command rail, feeling the weight of her decision press down on her. She saw her crew bracing themselves, their eyes determined yet weary. They had been fighting for too long, and this battle could be their last. As the Ascendant closed in, the first wave of Qatar ships fired. Devastating energy pulses blasted toward the Ascendant, slamming into the ship's shields and sending shockwaves that rattled every panel and every person aboard. The bridge shook violently, and Amara gritted her teeth against the impact. Shields at 78%, called Ensign Tyler, his voice tight. Another hit like that, and we'll be down to half power. Divert power to forward shields, Amara commanded. All batteries, open fire. The Ascendant's weapons blazed to life, beams of concentrated plasma firing at the incoming Kitar ships. Human engineering met alien resilience as the Kitar absorbed the hits, their ships barely registering any visible damage. But the Ascendant kept firing, her guns glowing red-hot, pushing against the inevitable. As each volley struck, fragments of the Qatar ships finally began to peel away, drifting in zero gravity before vanishing in a shimmer of what looked like regenerating armor. Each destroyed fragment reformed like liquid, sliding back to the body of the ship. It was as if the ships themselves were alive, regenerating with each hit they took. "Captain, they're adapting," Jax warned. "Our firepower isn't enough. They're playing with us, learning our tactics." Amara knew he was right. The Qatar ships had maneuvering in eerie precision, systematically targeting the Ascendant's critical systems. It was only a matter of time before the Ascendant would be left defenseless. The dread settled over her like a shroud. She had one option left, and the time to use it was now. The final blow came when a Qatar cruiser, larger than any they had seen before, unleashed a blast that shredded through the Ascendant's shields, tearing open the hull. The ship's lights flickered, and the hum of the engine sputtered to a low drone. Amara's heart raced as she issued the evacuation order, forcing herself to sound calm. The crew knew what it meant. They had held off the Qatar for as long as possible. Now it was time to go. Jack stayed by her side until the very last, his face pale but determined. "Captain, if you're staying, I'm staying too." "No, Jax," she said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "I need you to lead the survivors. Earth still needs its defenders. You're their best chance." The bridge was nearly empty now, only Jax and Amara left. She saw the pain in his eyes, the words left unsaid, and finally he gave a brief nod. Without another word, he turned and left, taking his place among the last wave of escape pods. When the bridge finally fell silent, Amara turned to the singularity device. She initiated the sequence, feeling the vibrations as it powered up, a hum that resonated in her chest, filling her with both fear and a strange peace. As the singularity device began to charge, Amara felt a warmth spread through her, memories flooding her mind. She thought of her family, of lazy days spent under sunlit skies, the smell of ocean air, and the laughter of loved ones. She had fought for them, for all the memories they could still make. And now, she would die for them. The device glowed brighter, and outside, the Qatar ships seemed to hesitate, as though realizing the danger too late. She could almost feel their fury, their surprise as a cascade of light burst forth from the Ascendant, engulfing the enemy fleet. The cosmic vortex created by the singularity device spiraled outward, dragging the Qatar into its core. Amara closed her eyes, feeling the energy pulse through her. She could almost see her fallen crew, hear their voices. The light grew brighter until it was all that she could see, a blinding, cleansing wave that dissolved everything in its path. Then, silence. Months passed, and on Earth, a quiet, solemn memorial was held for Captain Amara Steele and the crew of the SS Ascendant. Survivors gathered to share memories, to speak of her bravery, her unyielding determination. Lieutenant Jax, haunted but resolute, spoke of her final moments, her sacrifice, and the star that now glowed faintly in the night sky where the Ascendant had once been. They called it the Star of Steel, a light that would guide humanity forward, reminding them of the courage it took to face extinction and rise once more. Amara Steele became a legend, a symbol of humanity's resilience. For generations, explorers and travelers would look up at the Star of Steel, telling tales of the woman who had faced down the darkness and become a light in the void, her final stand now etched into the stars, a beacon of hope guiding them ever onward.